friends. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Parents Who Write. Today, I am joined by Erin Leigh, who is an author and mom of 4, and her nonfiction writing centers around parenting, motherhood, self-care, and outdoor adventures. She and her family reside in Northern California. Erin, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's exciting. And it's also very nice to meet another fellow Erin.
I agree.
So we have a lot of fantastic stuff to talk about today. So why don't we just dive right in? I know that you are an avid journaler. Can you tell us about your journaling and your writing journey before you became a parent?
Sure, I would be happy to. That's a good question because people often ask me when I started writing or when I started journaling. And it's really interesting because I've been writing for as long as I can remember. I started keeping a journal when I was a young girl, and I always tended to pick classes in high school and college that had a written component to them, which some people hated, but I tended to like the essay exams and the long papers and things like that. Writing and journaling really led me to take more analytical classes in college. And then that's what really led me to law school. My love of research and writing was something that I really wanted to focus on. And then practicing law led me to a whole different style of writing, doing legal work, but one that I really enjoyed as well. I really enjoy diving into a subject, researching it, and then presenting it in some way. So my journaling is probably how I started writing. And it's something I've continued through my life, through different areas of writing in my career.
Wow. So how did your journaling evolve after you had kids?
Well, number one, it changed. Interestingly enough, one of my closest friends gave me a great piece of advice when I was pregnant with my first child. She told me I keep a journal for my baby. And I thought, oh gosh, am I going to have time to do that? Like, I already have my own journal and now I'm going to do another one. But it was such great advice. And after I had my first child, I did just that. I kept a journal and wrote down every day just little things about my baby. I wrote down ideas that worked for me, things that didn't work. I kept track of nap times, feeding times, different transition stages. So like a transition, like a pivotal time in your baby's life, like maybe moving from one developmental phase to the next, such as dropping a nap or maybe weaning off the pacifier, things like that. But I just wrote about all these little transitions. I wrote about the milestones my baby achieved and just wrote about like what my challenges were, what my victories were, and what my frustrations were. So I kind of just kept this ongoing list of which things were successful and which things weren't. So the benefit of this change in my journaling style, focusing on my children, not just myself, was when I did decide to write my book, Navigating the Newborn Months and Beyond, I had 4 years of my own field research, I would say, on babies based on what I had documented in my journals. So I would say that's how my journaling evolved. It went from really all about me to about me, but then also about my children as well.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So what does journaling look like for you? Have you tried different methods and which do you use and how? I think a lot of people have the misconception that journaling is simply, Dear Diary, today it is raining outside and I feel blue. Like, I don't know, but just that idea of long form journaling. So can you talk to us about that?
Sure. There's so many different ways of journaling. And I mean, that's just one thing I want to put out there is there's not one right way. You should really do what works for you. But it's funny when you mention like the old Dear Diary. I've kept my diaries from when I was a young girl. And it is funny to look back because it is just that. It's kind of funny, but I'm glad I did it. Mm-hmm. But I've tried a few different things. I've tried some online journal apps and things, and even just trying to keep a log on my computer. But I'm just kind of old school. So most of what I have are just actual hardback journals. And, I'm kind of a pen and paper girl. So I do have a small note taking app on my phone that if I'm out and about and I don't want to forget something, I'll put down like a short note and then write about it later.
Mhm.
But I don't know. There's something for me that's just almost like a release when I'm able to actually take my pen and write on the paper. But it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, no, that makes complete sense because when we put pen to paper, we're actually activating a different part of our brain than when we're typing away
mhm,
on a keyboard. So even when I'm writing, if my ideas are coming fast and furious, then yes, I want my keyboard and my computer. But if I want to slow down and really be in the moment and I'm just teasing the ideas out, I love being
mhm.
able to switch to pen and paper and kind of switch to a different part of my brain and activate a different type of creativity. And that slowness also allows me to really sink into the moment and dig deeper into what it is that I'm trying to unearth, you know?
Well said. Yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
thank you. Have you tried bullet journaling?
I have not. I've read about it a little bit. I mean, I shouldn't say I haven't. I've tried it. It's just not something I do routinely. But there's so many different methods and different ways you can do it. In fact, I just did a talk not that long ago. It really focused on my book and motherhood. But it's
Hmm.
funny. The conversation really went into journaling, and I had so many discussions with other parents about, what's the right way? Have you tried this method? Have you tried this? And I'm like, try whatever you think works for you.
Yeah,
There's so many different ways. Is that
yeah.
something that you've used?
I So for my coaching clients, I create personalized journals for them, and
Mhm,
I created templates uh, that got inspiration from bullet journaling.
mhm.
So my workbooks, my journals for my clients include habit trackers in there or mood trackers. I really love the mood tracker one, especially because I was asked like, "Are you a coffee and tea person?" And most of them say yes. So then they get a mood tracking page that's coffee and teacups to color in per day. I love that one. But there's also like a meal planner in there. So the
Mhm.
bullet journal is not just recording your journal entries, but it's also like a planner and um, some other things that I incorporated for that were like quotes that inspire me. So there's a spread dedicated for just writing down those thoughts and other types of spreads like like a gratitude jar and
Mhm.
so I've incorporated activities into those that I loved from bullet journaling. The people who create bullet journals from scratch, they are professional scrapbookers, these people, and I am very
Yes.
impressed with what they do. It's so creative and beautiful. I don't have the patience for that right now, so that just
Mhm.
doesn't work for me, but I liked making my digital templates and putting them together to make them for my clients, so that's been fun.
Yes.
Um, I like the way that they help us to organize our mind because we have so
Mhm.
many different thoughts as parents that can overwhelm us. So I like the idea behind bullet journaling. It's just the effort behind it for the scrapbooking version of it and the collage work and whatnot. I'm a podcaster. That's where my time and energy goes to, not creating these beautiful customized journals. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. I was just curious if you had tried that. Um, but I really was surprised when I did some research on different types of journals out there and that there's like artistic journals and field journals and that a lot of people journal with doodles because doodling
Mhm.
also helps you to calm your mind and focus. And then I started learning doodling techniques, which
Mhm.
has now transformed into me creating my preschooler calls them love notes. So I doodle him a little doodle of some sort that makes him laugh. And then I usually put a pun on there. I drew a picture of the sun with a super happy face. And then I said, "You are my sunshine." And he was thrilled to get that one.
Oh, that's cute.
So, yeah, I did a donut with big eyeballs, and then I said, "Donut,
Mhm.
you know I love you," and he now
I
has a
like that.
collection. Thank you. So this is what my doodling turned into, were my little love notes for my kiddos. But
But that's a great point because, people express themselves in different ways. Some people want to sit down and just like dump out 2 pages of their feelings. For other people, they're able to express themselves through writing or drawing or, maybe just a short list of words,
yeah,
expressing your emotions.
exactly.
There are really no rules.
There aren't, exactly. Um, so what journaling tips do you have for parents?
Well, like we were just saying, I do believe that you should do what works for you and journal when it works for you. Some people like to write in a journal at a certain time each day. Some people prefer to write once a week or just write when they feel like writing. I mean, I don't think there are any rules because it is a tool for self care and reflection. However, in my experience, I do find that having some consistency can benefit you. It's nothing you have to do. I just find that when I do it on a regular basis, I get more out of it. And then when I go back and read my entries, you can kind of see the progression of your thoughts and just how things have developed. So, but again, it also can change during depending on the phase of your life. So, I mean, for example, when my children were babies, I wrote something in their journals almost every day. Now, that does not mean it was a lot. Sometimes it was just a short note, like today, slept through the night, But other times it was a few pages. Like, I'm really frustrated. I don't know what to do about this. Now that they're older, I write less frequently, but I write more because I may, maybe every few weeks that I sit down and I might write like a couple short bullet points that I want to come back to, but then I'll sit down for a good hour and get all my journals and just get it all out there. Okay, what are the things that have happened over the last few weeks? These are some milestones my child reached, or these are some challenges he has. So it's evolved over time. But my point in saying that is, there's not one right schedule for everyone. And if you are passionate about wanting to start journaling, um, be aware of your needs and what you want to get out of it. If you're feeling pressure or if you're upset doing it and you don't want to do it, then maybe you need to change the schedule, if so. I think you really need to think about what you want to get out of it and um, what your goals are in journaling.
Yeah, no, I agree. I did an interview with a poet, Dominique Snedeker, episode number 8. Wow, I can't believe I remember that. That's amazing. I'm past 40 episodes and I actually remember that number. That's cool. Anyway, Dominique Snedeker, she was talking about how we rely so much on taking photos of everything that actually it's making it harder for us to remember things. So I love the idea of keeping the journal of these precious moments because that's something that commits more to your own memory rather than relying on a digital photograph. That's pretty cool.
I agree too. And there's some really interesting research on journaling, how when you're thinking about something and you write it down, you just tend to remember it more. Like, it's funny, the things you think you're going to remember about your children, but you don't. You think, oh, I'll remember when they said their first word. Or I'll remember when they did this. It's amazing. Years go by and you think back, wait, what year was that? Like, when did that happen? And so, it's not only like having it, in paper or on your computer written down, but I do think it actually helps you remember those things better as well after you've written them down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't remember who said it or what the exact phrasing was, typical, but writing allows us to live a moment more than once. When we've written
Yes.
it, especially in our own words, we get to relive that moment as if we're living it a second time
Hmm.
because you get to feel those feelings again and be present
Yes.
in that moment again. So, and another thing that I had read about, if you feel like it's been too late, or I didn't record these things when my kids were younger and I'm never going to remember them now, you can actually start to trigger your memories if you create a timeline and then you try to
Hmm.
go back and start filling in those timelines. Be like, okay, what exactly kind of happened in here? And when you start to fill in that timeline, the memories will actually start to come back to you more and more.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah. Cool stuff, man. It's like it's Sudoku, but instead it's your
Yeah.
own timeline of your own memories.
I like it.
Um, so yeah. So how does journaling help you with your writing?
Oh, so many ways. I mean, number one, I think journaling really helps me organize my thoughts. I think for me, often I have all these ideas in my head. I think most writers do, right? We have all these ideas like jumbled up in there, and I'm always thinking about them. But once I put them on paper, it just helps me, gives me some clarity. I look at the ideas and then I can kind of weed out which ones are weak, and then I can hone in on the stronger ideas. So for me, it really gives me confidence to write them down. And initially, it can be kind of scary because it makes it real, right? You have these things in your head, you write them in your journal, and okay, wow, there it is. Those are my thoughts. But um, for me, I think clarity is a big thing. And with writing, I think that's so important because there's times where if you just write exactly what's in your head, like just straight to the computer, straight to the paper, and then you look back later, you're like, wow, that that did not come out the way I thought it would. Whereas for me, when I make notes in a journal and just at least write down the ideas first before I actually write what it is I'm wanting to do, it just really helps me weed through things. So that would be one thing. Um, the other way it helps with my writing, and I mean, this is just kind of an overall benefit of journaling, is I think it just has a really positive effect on your mental health, like helping you manage your anxiety and your stress, which I think as a writer, there's a lot of that going on besides just the anxiety and the stress of being a parent. It comes from both places. So I think journaling can just really help you manage some of that by whether you're writing about your writing or writing about parenting. It can really kind of just help you get that under control. I mean, journaling is
Yeah.
such an excellent form of self care. So I just
Yes.
think whether you're using it to help yourself as a parent or you're helping yourself as a writer, it's just a great tool for that. And then, just the
Yeah.
third thing I want to mention, and it does go to writing a little bit as well, but when you're caring for another, a child, whether it's a baby or a teenager, it can be very overwhelming. It takes a lot out of you. So I think allowing yourself to have that time to journal, it's just an outlet for your thoughts and ideas and just kind of helps bring you back to who you are as a person. Because I think that can be
Yeah.
so easily lost, especially when you have an infant. You feel like you've kind of lost who you are sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I always recommend to new parents to journal in some way. I just think it's a great way to reconnect with yourself.
Yes. I distinctly remember 1 year after my first baby was born, 1 year later, I had a moment where I thought, oh, I feel like myself again. And it was so shocking to just all of a sudden mentally stepped through the threshold
Hmm.
and be on the other side and be like, wow, that felt like such a long journey. And I didn't even know if I would get back to being me again.
Yes.
A whole year until I felt like myself again. Um, and then actually, I have two other thoughts about everything you just said. The first one, or the next one, is I actually have a future episode coming up planned about how journaling is the gateway to creative writing. And when I first started putting those thoughts together, it started off with like two, three, and then it grew to like 4 and then 5. And I think I ended up with maybe 7 ways
Oh,
that
wow.
journaling is the gateway to creative writing. Yeah. So I'm really excited to share those soon. Um, and then the third thing is, like you were saying, about how journaling can just help you get back to being yourself again. And so I've been working on a journal for parents who write, and I'm hoping to release it within the next month or so. But it's going to be a month's worth of journaling. It's going to incorporate a lot of the things that I had put together for my clients with like there's a week's worth of not a week's worth, a month's worth of just dinner planning. So this way you can just free up that brain space and you're not stressing about it. And there's, some of those like filling in these things that inspire you, those spreads. And includes 30 days of journaling. And the part that I'm really excited about it, which it'll be interesting to get feedback from people, is that it's not 30 days of writing prompts. It's actually for every week, it's going to have 3 prompts that are meant to help you dig deep into who you are and get back to yourself. But then the other 4 days are self-prompted entries. And at the beginning of the journal, I help walk the reader through how to record the ideas and the thoughts that keep popping into their minds so that when they're ready to journal, they can actually go back to those lists, those thoughts that keep coming back to them, and look at that and be like, what's the one that's really inspiring me right now that I want to dig deep into? And so this way, my hope is that parents will learn how to find their own writing prompts rather than having to rely on, 365 generic writing prompts. But like these will be like
Sure.
on a deeper level, right? So that's what I'm
Yeah.
hoping for. It'll be interesting what people say, but just we were
Wow.
talking about journaling and
Yeah. No,
this is
that
what I'm
sounds
hoping for.
fantastic. I look forward to seeing it. It
Yeah.
sounds wonderful because I think it's so great because I think a lot of people don't know where to start. When they think, oh,
Yeah.
there's some format I have to follow, which there isn't necessarily one format, but that sounds so helpful for parents just to have a kind of a guide. And I think it'll be really helpful, everything you've just said. I look forward to seeing it.
I hope so. Oh, thank you. I hope so. I'm really excited. I've
Yeah.
been working on this for a while. So,
Great.
but I'm just talking to another journaler and I'm like, like,
That's fantastic.
yeah. Thank you. Yay. Well,
You're welcome.
fingers crossed. It's a little nerve wracking, like finally getting it out there. But anyway,
Yes.
so, but yeah, the journal itself also talks about how journaling is the gateway to creative writing. And so, it's just tying everything that we were saying all together. And I love
Mhm.
that. So yeah, anyway, uh, um, so do you journal in front of your kids and what do they think about that?
Yes, I do.
I love
um,
that.
yeah, they know that it's just part of my life that,
Mhm.
oh, those are mommy's journals. It's really interesting. Yeah, my children love to see it. They actually always ask me whose
Oh.
journal I'm writing in, whether it's mine or what's one of theirs, because I have one for each of them.
Mhm.
So it's kind of funny. What do you write in, mommy? Whose is that? But they love to ask me to read entries about them from when they
Mm.
were a baby. They love hearing about things they've done. And I love looking back through their journals. I mean, I
Mm.
do it like periodically if I'm looking for something and then I'll find myself flipping back. Oh, remember when they did this? And it's really fun to kind of reminisce over the different things they've gone through. And I think when my children see me do that, they understand why I do it and they understand the importance of it. And it
Mm.
makes them feel special as well to know that I've written about them. And, what's funny is my daughter, who is 8 now, she started keeping a journal, I think when she was about 5.5. I think she was in kindergarten. I didn't even know she was keeping one.
Mm.
And I went into her room one day and I was like, what is this notebook? And she had written things every day. I mean, granted, it was kindergarten, so it was a lot of, you know, very simple things, but it was so cute. And I thought, oh my goodness,
Oh.
I think she's seen me do this. And then she wanted to do it. So, and I've talked to all my children about why I do it and the importance of it and encourage them to do it. I'm like, you don't have to do it every day, but when you're frustrated or you're mad or you're happy, whatever it is, sometimes it helps to write down how you're feeling.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important. I mean, it's something I believe in. So I want to model that behavior for my children and them to understand why it's important.
That's awesome. I love that. You know, I that gave me an idea because I've been meaning to start a journal for my kids. I finally got the journals and they're sitting on
Hmm.
my desk. I just haven't actually written anything in them. And I think it's because I've been putting this pressure on myself that I have to do it after they go to bed. But then I
Hmm.
switch into work mode with the podcasting, the editing that I do, coaching. Like those become my work hours late at night.
Yes.
And so it hasn't been working for me. But after we finish dinner, that's kind of like an hour's worth of family time. And a lot of times the
Hmm.
kids are actually just playing in the family room. So while they are doing that, that would be a great opportunity for me to write about them and then for them to
Yes.
see that.
Hmm.
And then I have my little inspirations right in front of me.
Yes.
So, oh, I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
That is my new goal. Everybody, I have made a plan.
Well, you have the journals. That was the first step.
It
So
was.
you're
Yes.
halfway there.
I have a I oh man, I was looking for another one and I couldn't find it. So I had to resort to the plain black and white composition book for one of my kids. And then the other one has an awesome Spider-Man composition book. So I was like, I'm sorry guys, I'll flip a
That's
coin.
okay.
Yeah, I'll flip a coin on who gets which one. Um,
Oh.
so okay. Um when last we spoke, you mentioned that you included your own experiences, journals, and research into your nonfiction parenting book. What experiences were those?
Well, number one, when I started the outline for my book, Navigating the Newborn Months and Beyond, my goal was to make it relatable to parents.
Mm,
I wanted it to be um, easy to read, and I wanted the ideas to be backed by research. But I really wanted it to be something that people could read and felt like they could relate to me and what I was saying, that it
mhm.
wasn't just some, science textbook.
Yeah.
So, what I tried to do was take my experiences with some of the challenging topics, um, the topics I found to be challenging
Mhm.
during my children's baby phase, such as how do you use a pacifier and get the baby to take the pacifier? That was a big topic that a lot of my friends and I would talk about. Like, this baby won't take a pacifier. How do you get them to take a pacifier? So, I used my experiences with that because each of my four children were different with that. So I
Mm,
tried to take ideas that or experiences that I had and explain why they worked, why they didn't. And then I did research to support my different ideas in the book. So whether I researched almost all the topics in my book. I mean, whether it was, the psychology behind having a routine and journaling, or whether it was the importance of swaddling, pacifiers, sleep training,
mhm.
um, all of those topics in my book, I tried to bring a personal experience to the table and the research to support it.
Mm. Nice. Um, how did you use the journaling specifically? Did you go back into your journals and then pull out excerpts or?
Yeah. Actually, when I had the idea to write the book, I had written kind of a brief outline. And then I
Mhm.
went back through all four of my kids' journals, literally
Wow.
read them through and pulled out what I thought to be were the biggest challenges that I
Mhm.
had, but that also I thought what other parents faced as well. I mean,
Gotcha.
there probably were little things that I had a difficult time with that maybe not everyone did, but I tried to find topics that I really thought would apply to most parents.
Mm.
So that was really how I started the more detailed outline for my book, was pulling ideas from my journals.
That's really cool that you had that living record to go back to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, so you also said that the whole process has been an incredible journey for you. How so?
Oh gosh, yes, it's been amazing. I mean, not just writing this book, but when I think back to the very initial stages, just thinking about my idea to write the book,
Mm,
outlining the topics, all of that was terrifying at first. because I
Mm.
knew for years I wanted to do this, but once you write it down, it starts to become real. And each
Yeah.
step I took was scary. I mean, it was exciting, but so scary too. Because I thought, wow, am I really doing this? I'm doing this. I guess so. Once I started, I didn't want to stop.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was an incredible journey because it really pulled me out of my comfort zone. Before
Mm.
that, I had stopped practicing law after once I had my third child. So
Mhm.
I was 100% stay-at-home mom. I didn't have like any other job I was doing. So when I decided to dive back into writing, there were so many things I needed to learn. So it was a definitely a learning journey for me. I mean, things like the editing process, the publishing process, setting up a website, marketing my book, working with a graphic designer, formatting, understanding social media. All of that was new to me. I mean, I had used Instagram like twice before I published my book. I was such a newbie to everything,
Right.
but I was so determined to figure it out. I read so many books on all of those topics. Like literally,
Like
how
what?
do how do you use social media to market a book? How does the publishing process work? How do you, use keywords? Just all these little things that I didn't even know were important until I got
Yeah.
far enough down that path.
Yeah.
I just love the writing part. Everything else was quite a learning curve for me. But
Uh-huh.
looking back on it, I'm so happy I did it, and I'm for so many reasons. But I'm very proud of myself for learning all these new things. I mean,
Yeah.
not just publishing a book, which I'm so proud of myself for that, but really understanding all these other things that terrified me. I mean, I am not a tech person, so setting up a website was a huge deal for me and took a lot of time.
Yeah.
And it's still a work in progress. But um, despite all the ups and downs, the whole experience of writing and publishing a book changed me in so many ways. I'm
Wow.
more confident now in my writing, and
Mm.
I'm really proud that I created something that stemmed from my experience as a mother.
Yeah.
I'm really happy about it. And yeah, it's been a great journey, a journey that I'm still on. So
You are still on it because of the
yes.
fact that you're going to be marketing that book for years to come.
Yes.
So that is definitely, yeah,
Very true.
50% of the process is writing the book, and then the other 50% is the marketing. And
Yes.
yes, 100%. But I'm glad that you're taking that seriously. Because I know that can come as a shock to a lot of writers that they think, yes, I've written this book and I've published it. Woo, I'm done. And it's like, oh no,
Yes.
no, no, no. Sorry. You
Hmm.
that is only 50% of the work.
Yes.
Um, so, but I saw your post recently about how your book is being so well received. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That is so exciting. So
Thank
exciting.
you.
Um, so for parents who are struggling with the challenges of the infant phase, what tips from your book can you share?
Well, my book, Navigating the Newborn Months and Beyond, is divided into 4 parts. So I talk about 4 topics that I think are really important to all parents.
Mm,
So I divide it into 4 sections: routine, sleep,
mm.
fussiness, and self care.
Oh, yeah.
And if you had to ask me what I thought was the most important, I'd probably have to say self care, which is probably not what you would think, because
Oh,
I
I
think
do.
most parents just want their baby to sleep, so they think that's the most important, and it is. It is very important. And don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I think it is so important um, to understand how essential self care is. So that's just a little side note. But
I
yes,
I would love to speak to that because
yes, go ahead.
I nobody prepped me for how much I could lose myself after my kids are born. Because prior to having kids, I only had to look after myself. Self-care was not
Mhm.
something I had to prioritize. It just obviously came first. So I reached burnout hard. And depression hit and anxiety got worse. So I 100% agree with you that self-care is in fact the most important chapter. And if I had known that beforehand, would have made such a huge difference just even on having more patience to better handle my child's fussiness, more patience to handle the sleepless nights, and how to better take care of myself and show myself compassion the day after I didn't get any sleep the night before, you know? So, and I'm an organizational nut, so I 100% vouch for routine. Like that part I had down, but, but the self-care I neglected horribly for like 6 years, and I paid for it, and my kids paid for it.
Well,
So,
it's interesting you say that because I don't think many of us realize how important it is
mhm,
when we have our first child. We're so 100% into it, and you're caring for this basically helpless little human 24/7.
right?
And I think so many of us feel like we can't take a break or we can't slow down, and we have this incredible guilt.
Mhm,
As parents, we feel guilt for everything. We feel guilt for going back to work. We feel guilt for staying home. We feel guilt for, taking a shower when we should be holding the baby. I mean, there's so many things, and it starts from the moment you have your child.
mhm,
And I think self-care is so often overlooked for parents, especially mothers during that postpartum period.
mhm,
And, I like to think of self-care as kind of like the big picture of your spiritual, your mental, your physical health, everything.
mhm,
And so whatever it is to you,
mhm,
however you're able to care for those areas, whether it's journaling, whether it's taking a nap, whether it's going and getting your nails done, whether it's talking on the phone with, a parent or a good friend, whatever that is for you, it is so important for you to make that part of your daily routine.
yeah,
And in the beginning, when you have a newborn, I'm not going to lie, it may only be 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It may be little pockets of time.
mhm,
But the point is making it a priority and carving it into your daily routine will help it become a habit for you.
yeah,
And as your children grow and get older, those pockets of time will increase and you will have more time for yourself. But otherwise, it can be this endless cycle. And then I feel like it's harder to convince yourself that it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a shower. You can put your baby in a safe place and he may cry for a couple of minutes, but if he's in a safe place, it is okay for you to do that. I have a lot of moms I've talked with who feel guilt even to do that. And I just want to help other mothers understand that it is okay to take a few minutes for yourself. It
yes,
really is okay. And it's encouraged. You should.
yes. Um, my previous mentor, Dana Abraham, she talks a lot about the SPARC program. She's primarily a parenting coach.
Hmm.
And her SPARC plan, because she deals with a lot of burnt out parents,
Hmm.
and her SPARC plan can be as simple as 5 minutes. And it's SPARC with a C, and S stands for shift. So it's shifting your mindset, even just with one simple thing like, I am enough.
Hmm.
Or whatever it is that you've been getting hung up on, I am allowed to take a break. Choosing something to shift your mindset on, to actively change the thought in your head that is going to help you believe that, embrace that. um so S is the shift. P is prioritize. So a lot of times we talk about just picking our big three things for the day that we want to accomplish. The
Hmm.
dishes, the laundry, all that little stuff, it manages to get done one way or another. But all we have to, all we need is to get three main things done for the day, and our day's a success, not 20 million things of the never ending to do list.
Exactly.
So P is prioritize. SPARC. A, I had to like go through my letters. A is activate. And it could be going for a walk. It can be
Hmm.
taking your vitamins. It could be drinking a glass of water, just something for your body. Um, R is recharge. So whether it's taking a nap or just drinking a cup of tea and giving yourself 2 minutes of quiet, that you can sit there with your cup of tea and just breathe and think about that. Um, and recharge could also be reading, journaling, those kinds of things. And then C is connect. And so you make a plan. Who are you going to connect with today? Is it talking with your spouse? Is it calling a friend or your own parents, or when you're at the playground, actually connecting with another parent for a few minutes. But her Spark plan can be as short as 5 minutes. Even if you dedicate 1 minute to each of those things, that's 5 minutes that you are dedicating for yourself.
Yes.
And I started with that Spark plan when I was beyond burned out.
Hmm.
And I came back because of that Spark plan.
That is really great. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's so important for parents to know is it doesn't have to be something huge. It doesn't have to be you going away for the weekend. I mean, of course,
Right.
wouldn't that be lovely? But, it's, I talk a lot about that in my book as well about, helping parents start with, a small, simple to-do list. If, like you said, not 20 things, but what do you need for today? Like, okay, maybe today you want to take a shower and respond to 3 emails and fold some laundry. Okay, great. You got those things done when you have a newborn? Awesome. Like, good job. Like, start there. Be proud of what you have accomplished and set reasonable goals for yourself too. Like,
Yeah.
don't put 20 things on the list when your baby's 2 weeks old. Just don't do it.
Honestly, don't do it ever. It's just
Yeah. I
exhausting.
mean, that's just too much.
I,
Yeah.
right before we started recording this, I'm like, I'm reaching burnout again. And why? I have too much on my to-do list every
Very
single
true.
day. So
Yes.
I know that I'm going to need a few days of TLC, and
Hmm.
I need to reprioritize. I need to reduce my list, and I need to figure out, I'm going to go back to my Spark plan. In all honesty,
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to do. And the other thing that I love about the Spark plan is that she made it so simple that it would be something that you could do every day so that it
Yes.
becomes a habit.
Yes, I agree completely. Absolutely. Because you
Yeah.
want to get in the habit of caring for yourself and caring for your family.
Yeah.
And it's so important not to leave yourself out.
Yeah, I agree.
You're
Um,
you're a better parent when you do care for yourself. I believe that.
yeah. There's a link where she talks about the Spark plan, and I'll include that in the show notes um, so that we can easily find that. Um, so sorry, but anyway, yes. To get back
Okay.
to your book and
No, it's
the
okay.
lovely tip. What other tips can you share from your book?
Well, I mean, I know you were mentioning about how, routine was easy for you, but I think one of the hard things for a lot of parents is establishing that routine.
Mhm.
Um, One of the best tips I can give new parents, and I literally walk you through it in my book, is how to start establishing a sleep routine for your baby. And that can be so overwhelming to a lot of parents. Like, they don't know where to start. And they think when your baby's only a few months old, like, how can you do that? They sleep at different times. But there are so many simple, easy ways to get your baby used to a routine,
Mhm.
which is when they're going to bed, it's simple things like, what do you do first? Okay, your baby's getting tired. Okay, well, if you're breastfeeding, then that's what you're doing. If you're doing a bottle, like, you need to prepare the bottle or whatever you're going to do there. But maybe it's you change the baby's diaper and then you feed the baby and then you swaddle them and then you put the pacifier in. Or maybe the order's a little different. Everyone's different, but whatever you're doing, if you're doing that same thing each time they're going down for their nap or each time they're going to sleep at night, which is, I know they're still waking a lot at night,
Mhm.
as much as you can have a consistent pattern, your baby starts to respond better to that. And it
Mhm.
may not seem like it in the beginning, but they do start to associate certain things with sleep.
Mhm.
So honestly, I think that's one of the biggest things parents can start doing. And then it makes it easier as your child grows. I mean, before you know it, they're 6, 9 months and they're really listening when you start to sing them a song or read a story before bedtime.
Mhm.
And then that becomes, as soon as you start to get bedtime going and you get out the book, okay, they know what's coming next.
Mhm.
And I think children, especially babies, but as children get older too, really respond well to predictability
Mhm.
and routine. They like to know what's coming next. So I just never think it can be too soon to start that routine with your child. I talk about 9 different ways that you can incorporate simple steps into your baby's sleep routine
Mhm.
in my book. So, one example I'll just mention, which is something very easy that parents can start to do today, is if you don't already use some kind of white noise with your baby,
Mm.
really helpful. Older children as well. And you could even download an app on your phone today and start doing it or on your device. You could get a white noise machine. You could use a bathroom fan. You could use a portable fan. There are a lot of different ways to create it. But what it does is just creates kind of a monotonous sound that can kind of calm your baby and relax him around bedtime. It also can shut out outside noises and just make a more stable sleep environment.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I love about this tip of using white noise is there's actually some interesting research studies that show babies fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer with white noise. So when I read that study, I was like, this is amazing. I mean, it worked for me, but I was like, wow, this is great. Like other people have researched this and found this to be true. So, yeah, that's one of the best tips I would give new parents is start a sleep routine early. And if you want more details, I walk you through that in my book.
That is fantastic. One of the things that I did, I'm curious if you included this in the book or if you found research that does not support this. Well, but we, from the moment we brought the kiddo home, we I don't even know how to say this. We wanted him to get used to daylight versus nighttime hours.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was napping during the day, it was in a bright, well-lit room. I didn't turn the lights off. But then when we were doing bedtime, I made sure that we had room darkening curtains. Mm-hmm. So the room stayed dark with a nightlight throughout the duration of bedtime so that he would just get acclimated to daylight hours versus nighttime hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in the beginning, that's important because they really have the days and nights mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
I think as they're past like that newborn phase, you can definitely transition to having the dark room for naps as well, so that they then associate darkness with nap time and sleep time. But I think in the first couple of months, there's definitely some flexibility in there, and different things work for different people.
Yeah,
I mean, I should put that out there overall. Is one of the things I tried to do in my book was to give a lot of different options because there's not one right way to do things with a baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
You're like, I don't remember when it was, but you're right. When that wasn't an issue anymore, my kids took naps in dark rooms and then they took lovely long naps.
Yes.
Oh, how I loved that.
Oh, I miss those. Yes.
Any other quick tips that you wanted to offer?
The only other thing I'm just going to mention really quickly, because we know we talked a lot about self-care and I gave some tips with that and sleep, but I think a lot of parents have a hard time asking for help in the beginning and accepting help. And I know I did. I felt like, I can do this all myself with my husband. Like, I don't need help. I'm fine. Accept those offers for help because eventually you are really going to wish that you had. I think in the first couple weeks, you're almost on this, I don't know how to describe it. You're just on like a level of excitement after having a baby. And sometimes like the sleep deprivation hasn't hit yet.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everything starts to pile up. So I just encourage other parents to say yes. When someone says, oh, can I bring you dinner? Or is there something I can help with? Don't say, no, I'm fine. Try to maybe think about, what would be helpful? And if you have a to-do list handy, maybe you could say, you know what, could you just come over and help me with some laundry folding? Or could you come hold the baby for 20 minutes so I could just take a shower and, get dressed by myself? But I just really encourage parents to ask for help and accept help.
I agree.
I think it's so important. Like, we don't all have to do this on our own. Whether it's a neighbor, a friend, a parent, people are so often wanting to help and willing to help. And sometimes they just want to know what it is.
Yeah. I would add to that, for any parent who struggles with accepting help, think about how you would want to return the favor.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how you're going to pay that favor forward and how another parent's going to be feeling and how the relief you're going to feel from getting help and then knowing that you can pay that forward. I think that will help with that mindset shift that it is okay to accept help.
Absolutely. I agree. That's a great point.
Yeah. So we have come to the end of our conversation. This has been informative and encouraging and just really, really interesting. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared about journaling and how it transformed your writing experience and led to you creating your own book. I mean, that's absolutely phenomenal. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So is there anything else that you would like to say? Your contact information and the link for your book, all of that is included in the show notes.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'll just share a little bit more about my book, if that's okay. I mean,
Of course.
as I mentioned earlier, really the reason I wrote Navigating the Newborn Months and Beyond is so that I could help other parents feel less overwhelmed and more confident during the first year, especially those first few months when you have a newborn. I think parenthood and motherhood are so often something we learn by doing, learn by through experience. So I really wanted to use my own experiences and research to help other moms because there's so many things we just often don't even know our options of, different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
So I hope that that's helpful to other moms. So if you're pregnant or if you have a baby or if you know other people who are, please consider my book. As Erin mentioned, it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble online. If you like to read digitally, you can find it on Kindle, Nook, Apple Books, Kobo, and more. I also have an author newsletter if anyone is interested. I send it out like once every 2 months or so. I discuss parenting, other books, travel. I feature other writers. It's just a great way to connect with my readers. You can sign up on my website. And if you do read my book or if you know someone who does, please leave a review. I always appreciate reader reviews. It really helps me spread the word about my book and attract other readers. So I'm always appreciative of any reviews. And in terms of social media, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. As Erin mentioned, I have a website and Goodreads as well. So please connect with me. I would love to meet more writers, especially parents.
Yes. Well, thank you again so much for joining me on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. This was so fun. I love talking about journaling. So this is a great fit.
This was a lot of fun. I love being able to talk about journaling and writing and parenting. It's everything that I love all in one
Me
big
too.
category.
That's great.
All right. Well,
Thank
you take
you.
care now. Bye.
You too. Bye.